Hello, friends. My name is Iris Josephina. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Planting Seeds podcast. On the Planting Seeds podcast, we explore how we can cultivate a more gentle relationship with our cyclical bodies, the earth, each other, and the world around us through using our senses, science, the subtle, and the sacred. On Planting Seeds, we talk about all those topics you've always wanted to talk about. We are shamelessly opening up the conversations that we all so desperately need to settle in our precious bodies and relate to each other in a more open, truthful, and empowered way. I'm so glad you're here today. Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Planting Seeds podcast. I am very excited for this episode today because I'm here with my mentor and my friend and colleague, Ashe Milkovic, and she is a nutritional therapy practitioner and functional hormone specialist that specializes in women's hormone and reproductive health. And she has a passion for spreading awareness about the power of functional nutrition for optimizing hormones and fertility. And her mission is to build community and safe space for other practitioners to expand their knowledge and expertise in functional hormone health. She is also the founder of the Functional Women's Academy, of which I was a part to, an online group mentorship program that trains health professionals to become the go-to functional hormone specialists in their communities. And if you want to learn more about Ashe, you can find her on Instagram at reproductive.radiance and at her website, reproductiveradiance.com. And I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Iris. It is an honor to be here on this show today, and I'm excited to dive into this topic.
Yeah, so we will be talking about hormone testing, blood work, Dutch testing, and why it is important to work with a practitioner instead of just DIYing your way through your menstrual and hormonal health. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited to have you here because I really value your knowledge and your expertise. And before we dive into all of the topics that we're going to talk about, I am curious about how you as a person and a professional plant seeds in the world with what is really important to you in your specific, unique field of work.
Yeah, so a lot of the work that I do is as a mentor for other practitioners. So we take deep dives into hormone and reproductive health, and in general, just providing safe space for practitioners to come together and learn and grow and evolve and just expand their skill sets in general. So one of the seeds that I try to plant is, I guess, just providing accessible research-based information and resources for practitioners so that they can then be of the highest service to their clients and create ripple effects of positive changes in women's lives everywhere, all over the world. So yeah, I try to show up by leading by example and, just being authentically myself as a mentor and also as a practitioner and allowing room for others to do the same. And like I said, to make all of this easily accessible so we can spread awareness and create a bigger impact in the world.
That sounds incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm super grateful that you are doing this work and that people like me who are practitioners can learn from you and all of your incredible expertise. And in your story just now, you mentioned that you value that we as practitioners can function and work and make sure that we provide a safe space. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that and why that is important?
So, there's always practitioners and people and resources for women in general, the general public. And I just recall back to some of my earlier days as a practitioner and just kind of feeling alone in the field and looking for support, looking for peer support and mentorship and just not really knowing where to go about that. And I spent a lot of time kind of fumbling and trying to figure it out. and messing up a bunch and learning lessons and just growing in my own capacity. And it has taken me a long time to build the community that I was seeking as a practitioner. And so when I started stepping into this role of being a mentor and helping other practitioners to evolve their skill sets and to learn more and to deepen, their practice development and protocol building skills, I saw the potential for creating that community that I seeked and creating that space, a safe space for practitioners to come together and to learn and to teach each other and to be with each other as we learn and grow together. Because that's just not really out there in a very accessible way. So I kind of am striving to create that vulnerable space for learning and for growing together.
That's really beautiful. And I also feel it's really needed because a lot of practitioners, we hear so many stories and we are in spaces with so many women and cyclical beings who go through a lot. And for us as practitioners, it's a lot to hold space for that. So I'm grateful that you are providing that space for us, that we can come together and discuss cases and just be in a space where we are with people that understand us. And I believe in every field of work that is so critical and so important. So I'm really, really grateful that you are providing that for us. And moving forward onto that, obviously, we are practitioners, and there's also a lot of people out there who just kind of try this and try that when it comes to their hormonal health. But why, according to you, is it so important that people actually work with a practitioner when it comes to their hormonal and menstrual and cycle health?
For sure. I often hear people say that they've tried everything, as you're saying, and nothing's worked. They've tried all the supplements, they've tried all the teas, all the herbs, the acupuncture, the yoga, the list goes on. And it becomes a frustrating journey, when you're trying to navigate this A, alone, and then B, without the proper training. Now, you think that being healthy is easy, right? It's just eating the right foods, getting some movement, getting some sunshine, staying hydrated. And, theoretically, it can be as simple as that. And it should be as simple as that, right? But we live in this world that is not set up for our health and our well-being. And we get so bombarded with, human experiences of families and work and career and life. And, everything can be really stressful sometimes. And I think it's okay to let go of feeling like you have to learn it all for yourself. A lot of people will go into it and they're like, oh, well, I don't need help because I can figure this out. This is easy. It's simple. I can do this. I don't need to ask for support. And being a practitioner and having navigated this field for so long, there's so much to learn and to grasp and to understand and to comprehend. It's simple, but it's also not as simple because we're complex beings. We have these systems in our body that are so separate, but so intertwined. And, if one goes off, then it's like a domino and all the others go off. And that can be a reason why I would say that it's not quite as easy for somebody just to eat the best nutrition or just to take the supplements or just to get the movement, because there's different equations that work better for one person over another. And, we really need strategy when it comes to approaching our health, because even though we might be born these healthy beings, that's not actually true either. Many people are born into a state of dysfunction and not having optimal health, whether that's due to their mother's health, that can kind of come along and enter into our own health through epigenetics. But even then, even if we were born a super healthy individual and like this pure essence, we live our lives in a way where we have so many of those experiences that I was talking about that then set off one organ system that then sets off another organ system. And then next thing you know, you're, 28 or 20, however old you are, and you're experiencing these symptoms. Specifically, a lot of the work that I do is hormonal based symptoms. So whether it's like crazy periods or infertility or, other reproductive health concerns that can come up. And it's like, we might think about taking a supplement or trying a new diet or, a new herb or acupuncture or whatever. But oftentimes that's just a surface level approach. And we need to have that strategy. We need to dig deeper. We need to look at what foundational areas became imbalanced through the journey of our life and work to strategically support balance back to those systems. And that is not easy. And it's like I said, there's so much to unpack. There's so much to learn and to grasp. And, as a practitioner, that's what personally and other practitioners, that's what we have devoted our careers to, is understanding the crazy, messy language of the body and helping you to fit the pieces together so that you don't have to stress about it, but you can just, feel like you are being supported and cradled and you have the journey in front of you so that you can worry about other things. You can worry about your kids. You can worry about your job. Let us take this off of your plate.
I love how you explained that last part, that we can play an active role in taking that onto us to figure that out with our expertise. And I also love that you said that some of us are just kind of born into a little bit of dysfunction. And I think, I'm a living example of that. I was born 2 months early. We talked about that. I wasn't breastfed and I've had gut issues my whole life. And you were actually the first person to acknowledge that what I was feeling for such a long time, that the way I was born and how I was fed, in those crucial stages, that actually had a huge effect on the rest of my life. And, just to give an example, you acknowledging that leaped me forward in my healing and in my understanding of my own body. And I'm a practitioner, but even as a practitioner, we need other practitioners to support us in that. And it's that understanding and the knowledge that is important. But as a practitioner, we also have other tools like testing. And I was wondering whether you can get into that specifically targeted at your field, like hormonal health and fertility. Everybody knows that hormone testing exists. Everybody knows that blood work exists. Some people know that the Dutch test exists, but for some people, it's so hard to understand. So could you maybe shed some light on what testing can add to our health journey?
Sure. So, you know this because you've gone through my program, but my philosophy is that we can learn so much from the body just through our symptoms. If we can, learn to digress and listen to the body and fit the pieces together, we can do a lot of great foundational work. And we can work on our nutrition, we can work on our lifestyle shifts, and that's going to do a lot on its own. But sometimes when there's more complex issues, and, unfortunately, this is the case for a lot of people, just because, like I said, it's a journey getting to your state of disease. It's also going to be a journey getting back to a state of health. And so for some people, it's not quite as easy. And the communication from the body can be fumbled or difficult to understand. And when we're thinking about things from a functional perspective, certain symptoms can also be signs of other issues. There's this level of learning the language of the body, but also realizing that there is stuff that we just can't know or understand until we have the data in front of us. And so with that, there are different testing modalities that we can use to help us to gather more data. So, we have blood work. We can do that sort of serum testing. We can do Dutch testing, which is the dried urine test of comprehensive hormones. So hormone testing, and there's lots of different avenues that you can go. If you wanted to look at your gut health, you could do a comprehensive GI map test, or you could do an MRT food sensitivity test. You could do, a hair tissue mineral analysis test if you're wanting to understand your mineral balance and different areas of how that could be affecting your health. There's lots of different ways that you can gather this data. The question is then, what's going to be best for you, right? Where do you start? What option, what data is going to be the most important, and what data is going to provide you with additional information. The way that I kind of describe this is when we're doing testing, we want to make sure that we are gathering new information. So let's say that somebody is they've missed their period. So they're amenorrheic and they're in their cycling ages. So they're not concerned about perimenopause or menopause, but their period has disappeared. There might be the thought around getting a Dutch test, getting a dried urine test, so you can take a look at your hormones. And this is another kind of cue for having a practitioner. If you're working with a savvy practitioner, we understand from a functional level that if you're amenorrheic and you are not bleeding, you're not ovulating, your hormones are likely low in general. And, instead of getting a Dutch test to see that the hormones are low, rather we want to try to figure out why the hormones are low from like a cellular level and a communicative level too. So in that sort of case, even though the Dutch test might be like exciting and awesome, and in some cases it is totally the right avenue to go, in that sort of case, I might recommend blood work and blood testing because we can get a deeper look at the cellular health and function. So what I'm talking about there is that, we have our cells, and our cells help to build our tissues, and our tissues help to build our organs, and our organs help to build our systems. And when we're looking at Dutch tests and we're looking at the hormonal reproductive system, that's a system. We need to digress and look at the organs and look at the tissues and look at the cells. So when we have a, good frame of mind of like, okay, this person is amenorrheic, they're probably experiencing low estrogen, low progesterone because they're not ovulating. We want to figure out why, and we want to look back at that cellular level. So that's where blood work can come in. And we can do serum blood work for hormones. We can look at things like LH and FSH and their ratios. We can look at prolactin, which could potentially stunt something like that. We could even look at AMH or other markers that might tell you a little bit more about your reproductive quality. And then beyond that, when we're doing blood work, we can also see what other factors might be leading to stress and inflammation of the body or dysfunction of certain systems like your blood sugar system or your digestive system. And oftentimes, those are the big areas that we need to focus on first. When your hormones are off, there's likely an underlying reason. Some other system is off, like your digestive system, your blood sugar system, your liver health. And doing blood work can really help us to get a closer look at those organ systems through interpreting the cellular health and function. So it's an art. Testing is an art. And, it takes a good practitioner, I would say, to be able to intertwine all of these thoughts and help a person to decide what testing is going to be best for them. And then also to observe those test markers in a way that can help us to determine function versus dysfunction instead of disease.
Can you touch upon disease just a little bit so that people understand the connection between everything you just said and how we get to disease?
Absolutely. So when we're looking at blood work, like let's say you go to your doctor and you get blood work, a lot of standard physicians, different doctors are going to be looking at blood work from a conventional approach or conventional philosophy. So this is where you have, two sides of the pole, I guess. One side of it is disease, both sides of them are disease. Let's say thyroid. Okay. So let's say you are at the top end of the range and you are above that range and you have this marker that is way out of range. You might have hyperthyroidism according to how conventional approaches are. They might diagnose you with Graves' disease. Or the opposite of that, where everything is really low, they may look at that and say, you are hypothyroid, you have Hashimoto's, or something along those lines. And this is just a general example, but there's this basic range, and on either side of it, it's disease. And so what's in between is totally normal. And you could be 2 markers off from that range where then you would have disease, but because you are still within quote unquote range, you're fine. And so that's kind of the perspective that a lot of conventional approaches have. They're not looking at function and they're not looking at dysfunction. They are looking for disease. So they're looking at that range or that pole and they're saying, okay, it's outside of that range. This person has disease, or okay, they don't have the disease and we don't have to be concerned about anything. Whereas if you're working with more of a functional practitioner, or there's lots of different names that, we might use, a holistic practitioner, an integrative practitioner. For me, I'm a functional nutrition professional, and this is kind of how I do the work, and other functional professionals will as well. is instead of just looking at disease, we're looking at the same ranges, but we have a much tighter range. So basically, what we're looking at is a functional range. So when we're saying functional, we mean, are the cells functioning? Is the organ system functioning, or is it dysfunctioning? And when we're outside of that functional range, then that would be we are heading towards dysfunction, or we are in a state of dysfunction and we are heading towards disease. So hopefully that kind of clears it up. Yeah. And when we're looking at those markers, we're trying to figure out how can we bring you back to a state of function so that you can avoid hopefully getting that disease.
Thank you for clarifying that a little bit more. And at the beginning, I mentioned that we would be talking about why it's important with a practitioner instead of DIYing your way through your hormonal health. I think for the listeners, I hope it's kind of clear right now why it is important to work with a person who is well-versed in this language of the body and the different markers and what they mean and how combinations of these markers and symptoms speak to us. I don't think I have to ask that question again. It's pretty clear how complex and beautiful our bodies are. But I was wondering whether there is something, any wisdom or anything else that you would love for people to take from this conversation and want them to know when they are struggling with their health and they don't maybe know where to start specifically.
Yeah. Hormones and symptoms and body systems are complex. And if you are in a place where you're seeking support, I would say make sure you do some background research and take a look at what kind of support you're looking for. I would say don't expect to just go to your doctor and they're going to be well versed in what you're experiencing. Again, a lot of doctors and physicians will work with state of diseases, and that's what they excel in. That's what they have been trained in. But if you're looking for somebody to help you establish function to your body and get your body systems back to a place where they are optimal and working properly, you might seek out a nutritionist or somebody who is more catered or specialized in functional health or functional nutrition. In which case, if my approach resonates with you, then maybe seek out a nutritional therapy practitioner. Or if you are looking for somebody with my philosophy and approach who might help you with your hormone imbalance issues, maybe seek out a functional hormone specialist who's been trained under me. And you can access all of that through the functionalwomensacademy.com too. But in general, just know what you are looking for, or try to figure that out, at least, what kind of support that you're wanting, what kind of support you're needing, and seek that out for yourself, because unfortunately, you get different support depending upon who you're going to and going for. So it's good to have expectations of that and to, be your own advocate, get the support that you're looking for. And in addition to that, I also just want to say that you can do a lot too on your own. And usually when people are wanting to come in for testing and they want hormone tests, they want blood tests, they want all this stuff done because they don't feel well, of course it makes sense. But the other thing that I always say is that even if we get these testings in, we're always going to be dialing back down and addressing the foundations. We're going to be looking at your digestive health. We're going to be looking at the habits that you have for your digestive health. We're going to be looking at your nutrition, your blood sugar balance. And usually, if those things are out of balance, your Dutch test or your blood work or your hormone test or whatever is going to be messy. And that can also be stressful for some people as well. So, if you have the means, try to work on some of those foundational approaches first and, take the baby steps, I guess. And when the time comes, seek out the right support to help you to dive deeper and get the proper testing that you need. And in general, just, don't be afraid to ask for support.
Thank you for saying that. And also thank you for clarifying that the medical system is very well versed and very well educated and very well equipped to deal with disease, whereas most people are not in that state often when they are seeking help. So what I really want people to get from our conversation is that there is hundreds of types of support that you can get on top of what the medical system can give you, because the medical system, we need them to get our blood serum test done, and we need their support from doctors, from that kind of system. And I would really like to add that I see healthcare and healthcare professionals from different areas and different fields as your support team. You can choose who will support you in your journey. And it's never one person because, as you say, there's different kinds of systems. There is specialists and practitioners who are well-versed in one system more than the other. And you can collect people around you who have different healing modalities and who can support your body in all these different ways so that you can address everything that needs to be addressed. And I think that is like a mindset shift that a lot of people are invited to make, because there is this idea like, oh, when I go to the medical system with my problem, they should be able to solve it. But unfortunately, I mean, as we know, as practitioners, we see people every week. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, it does not work that way. And that is the truth. So we have to make sure that we collect the people around us who we trust and that can support us so that they can guide us on our healing journey if we choose to work with them. And I also believe, as you said, like if you have the means to start on your own, that is perfectly possible. But in my personal experience for my healing journey, it really leaped forward when I found the right people who, spoke my language and understood my body and my symptoms. So I think that, we as practitioners, we can be like this bridge between our client and the medical system. How do you see that?
Building a team and, just recognizing where people's skill sets are, what they specialize in. And I'm a very blunt person, and I will just always say it's unrealistic to put all of your eggs in one basket when it comes to your practitioner. If someone's coming to me and they're expecting me to take care of all areas of their health and well-being, it's just unrealistic. I can't do that, And same with doctors. They can't take care of every aspect of your health and well-being. And, a lot of physicians only get about maybe 10 hours of nutrition education throughout their whole career. So, maybe they're not the best ones to take a look at foundational support through your nutrition. And that's where, like you were saying, building out that team and finding the best of the best in their niches is what's going to give you the most comprehensive healthcare and support that you're looking for. But also just recognizing, what kind of support you can get from where and, what practitioners can give you what kind of support so that you can build that for yourself. And the last thing I'll say too is that, not every practitioner is right for everyone. That's okay too. There's been times where I've maybe seen a client for a session and then just been like, okay, I don't think we're going to be the best fit for each other. And that's fine. Or vice versa. They're like, no, I don't think we're going to be the best fit. And I don't have hard feelings on that at all because, different people are going to resonate with other practitioners and other approaches. And that is healthy, I think. Just like, if you were to go see a mental health therapist, the first one you see might not be the one that you'll continue to see forever. It's also evolving. So as your needs grow and your needs evolve, you might need to seek out different support. But so I guess that's my primary thought around building a team and just being your own advocate. And one more thing that I would really love to tie into this conversation before we hop off is that I'm a practitioner for other practitioners. And I think that even as practitioners, if you're a practitioner, a health professional that is listening to this, I think that we put this pressure on ourselves that, we teach this material. We should be able to do it ourselves. We don't need support. And it almost feels like maybe you're not competent enough if you are dealing with your own health issue and you're trying to help other people. It can get into your head a little bit. And I just want to say that it is okay for you to also seek support, even if it is in the exact same field that you are working in, because we have blinders on ourselves. Whether you are a practitioner, whether you are just a woman dealing with issues in your own health, this is why DIYing, even if you're a practitioner, is not easy. So, I hold that space for practitioners to be able to feel safe to come for support in either their practitioner evolution or their own health journeys, because that needs to be out there as well. So, I guess that's, my final thought on this is that everybody needs support and that's okay. It's just figuring out what kind of support you need, how you're going to get that, resonating with your practitioner and taking it step by step.
Thank you so much for adding that to that. And especially as a practitioner, I feel really seen when you say that. And I really, truly believe that when we give ourselves that space, our bodies feel that. And also our own experiences, we can put that into our own practice as well. We can use our own experiences to grow in how we serve others. And so I really want to thank you for mentioning that last point, because it's a really important one. And I think a lot of people, no matter what field you're in, may be struggling with that in some way or another. Like, oh my God, I don't have this settled and I'm having issues in my body and I'm a yoga teacher, or I'm having menstrual issues and I'm a menstrual cycle educator. So I'm sure that people can relate to that. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. The best practitioners come to it from their own stories. So use that and see that as a strength.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your wisdom with us, whether we are just a person seeking for help with their health or whether we are practitioners. And I also wanted to quickly ask you, what is the best way for people to find you? Like, on what platforms are you on? Do you have a website?
Yeah. So right now I'm on Instagram primarily, and I'm at reproductive.radiance. And then I have my primary website, which is reproductiveradiance.com. And then the website for my 12-week practitioner training, which is functionalwomensacademy.com. And I will say that I kind of am in a rebranding process right now. So depending upon when this airs, that may change, but I will make sure to keep Iris up to date with all my new details so that you can be sure to find me as I evolve in my own practitioner journey. So it's been such a pleasure to sit here with you and to have this conversation and to hold space for this topic. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, with your friends, with your family, post about it on social media, or leave a rating or a review on all the platforms. To catch all the latest news from me, you can follow at the Planting Seeds Podcast on Instagram or at Cycle Seeds on Instagram, or you can go to my website www.cycleseeds.com. Thank you again so much, and I'll see you next time.